Hello internet! And today we have the next episode of Doggo Yaps. Today we'll be yapping about the RTA off-season tier list, which has just ended, so congratulations if you ended up where you wanted to be. Without further wasting your time, here's an introduction to the tier list. This is a tier list that I've made by watching others play and having some friends as well that proofread this for me. So hopefully I'm able to provide the best information for you. Maybe if you want to get an RTA, these are the units you should build. We start with the SS rank here. These are the characters that just by picking them, your win rate shoots up. And then we have the S tier where they're really good characters, but they have their own counters. And then with the A tier, it's a little bit more niche, but when you pick them correctly, they'll be the sole reason you win. And then with the B tier characters, these are the characters that just isn't that good these days. And then we have three other tiers that we really can't mix them together because they do different things. We got cleavers, we got counter pickers, anti-cleave. I'll get to that in a bit, but disclaimer, this tier list is not the Bible. I didn't come for your bloodline, so don't come for mine, hopefully. And secondly, I have not ranked them from left to right. I just have them in the tier. I'm not saying which character in the tier is better than the other guy. Without further ado, let us start. We have the SS tier. Starting off with Emma Politis, this is a damn given. Everyone knows, first pick Emma Politis. If you're not gonna ban that, someone's gonna pick her. Janua as well, the best friend of Emma Politis, or even just generally by himself, he's actually pretty good as an anti-cleaver. The moment he drops below 50, he cuts right away, right in front, kills the whole squad. It's insane. These are pretty obvious ones. I'm sure you've seen them more than enough times. And we have Laya, which has probably one of the highest win rate this season as well. Most of the first picker, she can cleanse debuff, she can do damage on S3, she can dual attack S1. It's just value jammed packed. If you pick these three characters in RTA this season, you immediately have a better win rate. Of course, you gotta know what you're doing though. Moving on, we have the S tier. These are the characters that are still just really good, but there are gonna be counters towards them, albeit not that much anyway. I'm not gonna go through each and every one of the characters though, so I'll just pick and choose a couple that's interesting. Firstly, we have Conqueror Lilius. For the longest time, she's one of the best characters in the game. These days, she is still good, but there is gonna be some counters like Moon Bunny. But in the meta right now, where everything's so speedy, the vigor buff that she brings and the control that she could give, the dual attack as well, she's still a very valuable character. But you don't just get to first pick her and expect to win, because there are some counters. Still really good though. And then we have Aiden as well. Everyone's bored of this character, but she's still around. One of the best anti-cleavers still if they don't have like Zaha. Of course, there's shalltear in the game, but she's not available in RTA yet. However, though, even for standard scenarios where the enemy has an Abyssal Eufiend, you could just one-shot a Eufiend. A really good option for anyone trying to play RTA, right? Aiden is still up there. However, there are counters, right? We got shalltear coming up, and of course, Zaha as well. Moving on, we have Carmen. This character is actually one of the best mitigation you can ask for the invincibility, for all the value of damage mitigation she has. Pretty good. And then with the obvious ML Laddie, you know, pick her. You have a set amount of chance that you could just counter and win all the time. But she does have counters now like ML Bologna. We got Death Dealer Ray. Absolutely busted character still. But with the meta getting faster, I wouldn't put Death Dealer Ray in SS, but he's still really good in any standard playstyle where you slow down a bit. Control them to death. They can't really do much about that. There's also counters like ML Sharu. Still a very good character. And then we have Abyssal Eufiend. Good in anti-cleave. Could counter a bunch of times you win in standards as well. Has an extra life if you have her on the revive artifact. Even has the CR push deduction, which just makes her such a good like anti-cleaver. With all that value in her, still an S tier character. And then we have Karina. We all know how good Karina is. Anti-cleaver, really good. And especially with a lot of Januas these days, Karina is one of the characters that you could handle Janua with. We have Gala Lilius next, one of the best aggro characters as well. And the rest of the characters here are all just really good. I can't really go through all of them or else this video will be 30 minutes. We got characters like Nakwal. There are counters to her, but pick her in the correct way. Enemy just die. Bind it. If you get sobered as well, they can't do shit. Game's instantly yours. Same with Lua. There's a lot less Lua because of Laya these days, but if Laya's not on the map, Lua's is always gonna be a threat. Let's not forget how annoying Lua was, right? Other honorable mention that are unique would be Payra. Again, with someone like Janua just running around, Payra's stun on S1 and all the debuffs she brings with some mid as well. Pretty good against Janua. We have Ambitious Tywin, which actually rose up because, well, we have someone like Sea Phantom now to give him Enrage. That's annoying, right? Ignore F-Res debuff. And the rest, you know, we've seen some familiar faces. You know how they do. Let's move on to A. We have tier A here. These are the characters that you won't be able to pick every turn and then expect yourself to win. You gotta pick them depending on the scenario, but if you do it right, you're gonna win because of them. Personally, we have Lone Crescent below that. This is very simple. It's got a lot of damage, a self-vigor buff, and ignoring anti-crit, which considering Navy Captain Landy's around, you have not a lot of options outside ML Bologna that could guarantee the crit. You can also Gala Lilius, but you might not one-shot an ML Landy and just get countered every turn you lose. With Lone Crescent Bologna, it's a lot safer way, and people that usually plays ML Landy has no choice but to ban her, which makes her such a threat for them. And then with Arya, this one's actually a little bit niche. You don't see her all the time, but she's actually so good if you pick her correctly, especially with the new EE as well that gets her focus. If you pick her in the right scenario, the enemy can only hit into Arya. Arya counters, like, you just keep attacking, nothing much they can do, but you cannot pick Arya every game though. Next up is Shadow Knight Pillars. With Rocket Punch, you know how good she is. She can face tank an Aiden and then if anything, kill her back with the Rocket Punch, right? So a fairly valuable character this season, but without the Rocket Punch though, you might not see her as that much value. And then we have Destina, one of the characters that could just say resist every debuff under the sun and then cleanse with her passive as well, right? She gets a lot of ER. If you need a cleanser that you know is really hard to ever get debuff, Destina is pretty much your only choice, dearly, which is why I ranked her A. And then with Urban Shadow Shoot, pick her right against a really tanky team. You just get injure, survive with Urban Shadow Shoot, and kill everyone just like that. We already see a lot of her even last season. This season a lot less though, because it's a lot more aggressive now, but in a standard gameplay, you can still see her just chucking away with the injury, right? And then winning in the end. Moving on, we have Bihu. This is actually a sleeper character. After EE as well, with the burns and all of that, you can actually see her being played in standard to kill, like, say, ML Landy, because burn don't care about no Landy, don't care about no crits, right? You cannot pick him every game, but definitely if you pick him correctly and the enemy has nothing to cleanse your burns for, Bihu's gonna decimate the enemy. Next up, we have Rimuru here. This one's a little bit more niche, but the fact that he has a CR push and the ability to just nuke anybody with an S3 as well. If the enemy is overcommitting with the buffs, you have a cut with Rimuru, get your whole team your buffs, nuke a character right then and there. Moving on with Solitaire of the Snow. She has always been the character where if you're not careful, you can just pick this character and stun and control the whole team. They can't do much about that. And it is the same for this season. If the enemy is slowing down and doesn't have a lot of cleanse, your Solitaire of the Snow is gonna stun the living crap out of them. She's also purpose stealth, so if the enemy doesn't have AoE, you got your trap right here. And finally, Moon Bunny Dominion. Overall strong because there's a lot of dual turn-taking characters, right? We got Conqueror Lilius. You're not gonna pick her every game, but the moment anyone has any form of extra turn, she can always be an option for you. And again, considering how aggressive the meta is and everything's fast, right? You want characters with high impact. The moment enemy gets an extra turn, Moon Bunny gets you your immunity, gets you all the buffs you need, cleanse as well. That is very high impact, so if you use her right, she's gonna be the sole reason you win. And moving on with the B tier, these are a lot of characters, which unfortunately isn't that good these days. I'm not gonna go through all of them though, so let's just pick a few. Let's start with gosh dang ainz. I actually was monitoring the win rates and stuff for some of these characters. Laya has really high win rate, and ainz is the complete opposite. He has very low win rate because people are mostly just trying him out. I would actually say the definitive issue is that he gets 15%. That's just really annoying for anyone to convince themselves to use him. But I almost want to say in very niche scenarios where he can have the counter attack and then just stun. That is actually fairly annoying. But for this season though, I don't see a lot of people actually making him work, and hence why he's in B. Next up, we'll focus on some characters that are, you know, decent before, right? We got Apocalypse Ravi. She was a few seasons ago one of the best characters, but right now the meta has changed quite a bit. A lot of characters can just burst you down. Someone like ML Landy. A couple of counters later, A Ravi might just like see herself going to red, or Janua might just 1 or 2 shot her. And with that said, we don't really see too much of her this season. That's why I put her in B. And the case is same for someone like Alencia, right? A HP bruiser, a little bit too slow and not enough instant impact where in this aggressive meta we are trying to get. So you'll see a lot of like bulky, slower characters that was good before that are bruisers, right? And right now, not too much, yeah? We also have an interesting one where Specimen says there are actually quite some people, even in Legend. I've proofread with, you know, a mate of mine, he's in Legend. He's mentioned that he sees some spells paired with ML Sharoon as well to play some cheese comps. But I would say generally you're not picking this character unless you have a whole team around this character. And overall, there's really not that much people who plays him anyway. With a lot of like one-off cases and just overall not enough general consensus and an idea of how he fits into the meta, I've decided to put him in B. But there are certainly people who's made him work though. Just keep that in mind. Moving on with Pirate Captain Flat. A few seasons ago, she's insanely toxic with all the bombs that she can throw. But right now, the meta is really quick. So Pirate Captain Flat, more often than not, might just get exploded. Moving on, let's take a look at Senya's case as well. Before, she was one of the premium characters for anti-cleave. Right now, she can do it, but it's a lot less reliable, again, considering there's characters like Janua. 1 crit and you're guaranteed dead. In fact, he might not even have to touch Senya to just kill her with the splash damage, right? You can certainly still use her though. However, we don't see too much of her anymore, especially in Emperor or above. And I think that just summarizes the whole thing here. These are characters that aren't just good enough that you want to actively go for them under like most scenarios, but in off cases, you definitely could still use them. That is usually how it goes with tier lists. You don't get a definitive Bible, right? Like you can't just say that is just the truth. There's a lot of cases and a lot of nuances in there. I'm trying my best to get the best, most accurate information for mostly players that want to like climb or players that want to get an RTA. You will have a much better chance rely on characters that's high tier than someone in B tier here that has some one-off cases. Moving on, we have the Cleave tier. This is one of the most aggressive seasons ever, so Cleave is actually eating pretty good right now. I'm not gonna go through all of them though, but let's just start with the speed imprints. You know the drill. We got Vildred, we got Watcher Shuri, we got Veronica, Wonder Silk. Getting that speed imprint out to be anyone, very good. They'll always be in the Cleave tier, where I can't just say they are B tier. They deserve their own tier. We're calling them Cleavers. We have probably the top dog of Cleave this season, Zia right here. Guaranteeing your turn 1, getting the silence, half helping anyone basically with the pushback as well. Insanely good as a book holder even for one of his best friends. We got ML Ludwig. This guy, we see her so much in a Cleave team, right? This guy has so much damage on him that he could just soulburn once, soulburn twice, kill the whole team on S3. Doesn't need anything else. Insane. With a soulburn CR push as well, it's just a lot of utility. He gets himself the turn, gets himself tap buff, even gets himself increased hit chance for Aiden, and boatload of damage. It's really good. And then we have Ron, the king of Cleave for a lot of time now. He's still really good. Pair him with like Fire Politics with a soulburn S3, have a turn with Ludwig, everything dies. Simplest Cleave of all time. And then we have Fire Politics, of course. You honestly want to pick Fire Politics for the book as well, and you know, just to prevent the enemy from picking Fire Politics. You don't want them to like just cut you with a non-attack skill, all that. So for Cleavers, we still see Politics around. Next up, we have Faithless Lineker. She's been one of the strongest opener for Cleave for a pretty long time as well, and we still see her this season. She's still going strong, but she's one of the most well-centric character ever though. You need really good gear. And then we have Sid. We don't need to talk about Sid. High damage, speed imprint. What more do you want? We have Flan as well. A bit of an off case. Not a lot of people use Flan, but with a death break, with a attack, crit damage buff, and a CR push mechanics, he's definitely still one of the options. We have Jacko. If you run debuff, Jacko's your girl. We have Architect Leica as a book holder as well, and she can one-shot anyone with a target, right? So it's always an option for Cleavers. And the rest of the Cleave tier are pretty similar. We got the usual Cleavers. I would say, you know what? The things to highlight, right? We got Pavel, actually. We see some cases with Pavel because there's a lot of counter unit. If you don't want anything to counter, you know what? Pavel's your guy. S2, no counter. Or if you really want to burst down someone, S3. Really good single target hit, which is why we see some Cleavers actually gearing up Pavel in high RTA. And we have Judge Kisei as well. Not gonna lie, if they say ban all your openers and they pick counters upon counters upon counters, Judge Kisei, Astromancer, Alina as well, that I have in this tier right here, beautifully destroys all their countering capabilities, right? You are weak to 15% with J Kisei though, unfortunately, but she's one of the only options you have left if the enemy goes full counter, bans every anti-counter character under the sun. I've definitely seen 1 or 2 Cleavers use her, and the rest pretty familiar faces. You know what they do. I would say Famir is actually a pretty niche case as well, but I do see some Cleavers playing aggressively with Famir's defense break and all of that. And that'll be it for the Cleave tier. Do take a gander. I'm not gonna go through all of them, right? Moving forward, we have the counter picks. These are the characters you nearly never pick unless the enemy picks a certain way. I can't really rank them and say they're B because they are such a 1-to-1 counter where you get such an advantage if the enemy picks, say, a certain way. Firstly, we have Celine. If the enemy goes ML Politics, you know who to go. Celine is one of the options, though I don't think it works that well depending on the draft. But against Flan Cleavers, definitely Celine's your girl. And guess what? She's about to be buffed as well, so she'll get even better. You'll see her around. Next up, we have Dragon King Sharu. This one's actually a sleeper character as well. With the amount of sleeps and stuns that a lot of characters have, like someone like DDR, someone like Enraged buffed the A-type that ignores ER stuns, Dragon King Sharu becomes the premium anti-sleep, anti-stun. The moment they stun you, you get a cascade. You know what? The entire flow of the battle goes your way now. Edward Elric, nothing needs to be said. Counters debuff really well. Does his job. We got Abigail as well. This character you can counterpick against a lot of scenarios. In an anti-cleave setup, you could protect, say, an ML Landy. Give her the immortality, forces your enemy to kill her first, and then get to ML Landy. It's really hard to beat. Or even in a standard scenario, if you're running like one hyper carry team, say it's an Aiden, right? They're gonna force themselves to kill your Aiden as fast as possible. If you have an Abigail there, all of a sudden they have to kill Abigail first. It's pretty annoying. A very good counter pick. Moving up next, we have Alvera, countering Fighting Spirit. Very good against someone like Abyssal Euphine, someone like ML Landy. You definitely want to keep her in your pocket if you're struggling against those units. We have the obvious Lionheart Serbia. You know, if the enemy goes for counter, you can always go Lionheart Serbia. And the rest are pretty straight to the point. We have Dark Horvus as well, which is again a sleeper character. Not a lot of people use them, but from a friend that proofread this entire list, Dark Horvus can sometimes be used actually for cleavers if they are tanking down too much. As a force ban, definitely you could pick this guy as well, but in most cases you won't see it though. He's in the list because, well, he's a PvP character, so I thought I'd get him in. Most of the time you won't get to pick him. Counter pick against characters that goes too slow. You go Violet, counters Ice character. If they go too much Ice, you go Violet. We have Seaside Bologna as well. This is also a suggestion from my mate. Her passive proc can actually be annoying for cleavers, but again, I don't see too much of her either. Still, she's a PvP character they can think of, right? We have the obvious Zaha countering evasion. We have the obvious Spirit Eye Selena as well with the revise and countering dark units. If you're struggling against certain characters, take a look at this tier. Maybe you'll find someone someone that can solve your issues. And finally, we have the anti-cleave tier. This is a tier that if your enemy's cleaving, well, these are the characters to look at. We have albedo as the first one. I'm not ranking them from left to right as I mentioned, so they're all just anti-cleave, okay? With albedo, I've made a video, build a really tanky, hold steed either 3F or Aureus. You can either mitigate a lot of damage or 3F's gonna do decent damage to a squishy run. Right? 5k on a squishy run is almost a one-shot. You also have the S3 for a defense break against any like half tanky characters in any scenarios. You can still just out of nowhere get them out that window. Death break plus 3F, that's going to be quite a bit of damage, but it's likely that you won't get to pick her all the time. Moving up next, we have General Purgius. This is actually designed for Flitica cleavers, which is quite popular. That constant CR push, really annoying. Pair that with say like an AOL, they almost cannot avoid giving CR to you. Speaking of CR with Alina, honestly this tier most of them has like CR manipulation to cut cleavers, which is why they're good. Alina is pretty good in that sense as well. If they go for a round cleave, your Alina can just resist, get herself a push, add the invincibility up, and you just automatically win. Sage Ball, you know the drill. Cuts the cleavers, get the sleep in. Green Armin and Bellion both work almost the same, with Bellion just countering souls as well, which is really good, but most of the time, cleavers will pre-ban her though. Green Armin is just Bellion without the whole soul thing. A counter could stun you, a counter could kill you. It's a pretty good character with mitigation as well for anti-cleave. We have Kayron. You don't see that much Kayron anymore these days. It's hard to use Kayron to anti-cleave with the amount of options that cleavers have. If the enemy just forgets about the possibility of you picking someone like Kayron, same with Bloodline Karen actually, and ER Kayron, ER BBK, the moment they make a mistake of twisting their nipples, double pick Kayron and BBK, all of a sudden he's dead. And finally, we have Troublemaker Crozet. This is very simple as well. You protect your back line. So in an anti-cleave setup, put Troublemaker Crozet with Karina in the back. Good luck trying to kill that Karina, right? And that will be a really good way to anti-cleave. And ladies and gentlemen, that will be all for my off-season RTA tier list. These are all data gathered from me watching players play, and of course I haven't made that as a proof that he got to legend this season, so there is some report behind this. I'm not just chatting on my ass. I try to give my best information I possibly could. Feel free to disagree though, but please keep it civil. I didn't say you're wrong. You didn't have to say kill myself either. And that'll be all for today. Let me know if you agree or disagree and your thoughts on the entire tier list. That'll be all for this episode of Doggo Yaps. I'll see you next time, and that is all. Take care.